All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to today's edition of our Building Public live stream. This is the stream where we build along with our community to show you how we build some of the internal services that we have at Shardeum that powers the Shardeum that we all know and love. Um, the goal is to build along with you and also show you and help you to contribute to Shardeum so that we are all building Shardeum and getting it closer to mainnet. Today, we are going to be looking at how to set up the local RPC server for Shardeum. If we are able to finish on time, then what we would do is try to add a new method to our JSON-RPC interface to expose some network information. But yeah, let's see how fast we can get the system all set up. I'll start by explaining it, and after explaining it with a few diagrams, then we will dive right in and kick it off. So once again, thank you for joining us. Stay up till the end, and we are going to share some pull-ups. So I'm going to share my screen now. Where is it? It's this one. And someone can let me know in the chat when you can see it. All right, let me know if you can see the screen, Shulam, and I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Great, awesome. All right, so before we dive in, I want to give a small explanation of the RPC. It serves as a bridge between your application and the Shardeum network. So if you're building some smart contracts, if you're deploying some dApps and things like that, the RPC is the interface through which you communicate with the Shardeum network. So if you want to submit a transaction, or you want to get the balance of the wallet, or any kind of interaction that you want to do, will pass through the RPC, get that data from the Shardeum network, and provide a response back to you. So this is how it typically works, and what I want to show you is how the Shardeum network handles that movement of data. So what I've done here is try to draw a diagram of the Shardeum network of 10 nodes. So this is ideally this will be the network with all these individual nodes participating, validating in the network. Among them, we have an archiver that is part of the network, but doesn't participate in consensus and things like that. It doesn't process any transactions. It basically just stays there to aggregate data and hold the historical data of all the transactions and everything that happens in the network. So all the receipts that get generated, all of that gets sent to the archiver, and it keeps that data. And then how we pass this data downstream is that if you look at the diagram below, the validators in the network will reach consensus as they talk to each other and process transactions, and they push that data down to the archiver. And the archiver holds the data, but it's not primed for responding to queries. So what happens is that it passes that data down to the distributor service. And what the distributor does is that it allows different services to subscribe to it and receive those data in real time. And then one of the services that subscribes to the distributor is the collector. So this aggregates data and subscribes to all the data that's coming from the distributor, and then passes it down for that to all the downstream services we have, like the JSON-RPC server and a couple of other things. So this is just high level. I wanted to provide this because we are going to need to set up all of these things. Basically, all of these services is what makes up the LD-RPC system that we're going to set up today. So I wanted to provide this context to just have it at the back of your mind while we go ahead and set up all of these things. To get started, what you can do is one of the first prerequisites is to have a Shardeum network running locally. I already have it set up on my system. So what I'm just going to do is going to start the network. We've had a couple of different streams where we set up the network of 10 nodes. So now you see that we have a network of 10 nodes. We have one archive server and one monitor server. If you've not been at any of our streams or you've not had to set up a local network, a local Shardeum network before, I would provide maybe a link to some of the previous streams or some of the YouTube content and some content on the documentation on how to set up a local Shardeum network. But that is one of the initial prerequisites, and that's what I've done here. So I have this network now running on this port. The next thing we want to do is, so I'm going to be following a local documentation for how to set up these services. It's not published yet. What I'm going to do after this stream is publish that. This is also, I'm using this stream as well to kind of test that documentation to see if it all works. So if it all works on stream, then I'm going to push it to the live docs to make sure that everyone else follows it. If we run into issues, then I will know what to fix before I push that up. So let's get started. So the part we've done is we've set up a Shardeum network locally. So we want to start with the distributor now. So I'm going to create, let me make a new tab. And I'm going to go back to my desktop actually, because that's where I want to keep all the, I spelled that wrong, desktop. And I'm going to make a new directory. I don't know what we should call this. Let's call it BIP 21, right? So this is the directory where we're going to have all those services we want to set up. And the first one we want to set up is the distributor. And let me show you how we do that. So, okay, actually, before I do that, let me show you that service. So if you go to GitHub, Shardeum, we have relayer distributor and a relayer collector. So all of these services I'm going to be setting up they all exist on our GitHub, Shardeum GitHub organization. But I don't want to be going back and forth through all the different 4 to 5 different repositories. So I'm just going to be running the commands. But I wanted to show you that it exists if you wanted to check them out. So this is the first one I'm going to set up, is the distributor. So let's do a git clone of that. Then let's go into the relayer distributor and let's npm install. So this is pretty much what we're going to do on this stream, is set up all of these different services locally, and hopefully we get everything working together. If we do, then we can probably on the next stream, if we don't get enough time to make some code changes, we will do that. We'll try to implement a new method. But yeah, let's see how far we get with this. So I'm going to open this up in a code editor because I want to make some config changes. Part of the local setup for all the different services is that we're going to make some changes to all the configuration files for all the services we're setting up. So for this one, we want to find the distributor config.json file, and we want to point this archiver.db directory and the data log directory to our locally running Shardeum network. So I'm going to come back there and let me just grab that pwd, right? So I'm going to grab this URL, and where is it's this one. So I'm going to put that here. So this is one of the initial configurations you have to make to the distributor, and then I want to point to the I think it's the archiver.db. So this will be archiver.db 4000. Again, this directory does exist, so let me see if I can show you where it is. So it's here. I'm gonna grab that in. So this is the directory that I just added, this one. So this is the archiver DB. So basically, if you look at if I hover on it, you will see the path to that DB. That's what we basically just did now. So I'm not doing any magic there. So we are linking to that DB, and the next thing we want to do is do the same thing for the logs. So here we have, I'll put this here, and this should now be the path to our logs directory in the archive DB. Yeah, I think that looks good. So I'm going to save that, and then the next thing I want to do is prepare that with npm run prepare, just to make sure that our changes take effect. Good, and I can start this distributor service. Before I do that, let me actually see if my network is up and running. Local Office 3000. Yeah, so the network is up, it's on cycle counter 5. We have one validator active and a couple others in standby joining the network. So let me start the distributor service with PM2. The PM2 start build. Yeah, so this is one of the things I want to update in the documentation, because the existing one doesn't basically go to the right part. There is a source directory inside the build, and that's where we have the distributor.js file. So let's run that. Right, so it looks like our distributor is up and running. How do we confirm that? So the distributor is running on port 6100, and we want to, let me ping that and see if I can get a config file. Okay, great. So we have our distributor up and running. Great. Okay, so that's one down, maybe 3-4 more to go. Let's come back to the terminal, and I'm going to get back to this parent directory, and let's set up the collector. The collector is almost on the same GitHub URL as the distributor, just the difference is the name. So let's do a git clone relay collector. Let's cd into that, and let's npm install. So when that is done, we're basically going to repeat the same process to update the configuration for the collector service, so that it will work as we want it to. So let's open this up. All right, so now this is our collector service. And the first thing we want to do is update the config file again. So we have a config.json file. It shows the public key of the distributor that we just set up, and we have the collector information here as well. So what I'm going to do is add a secret key to this collector info, and that's it, pretty much. I'm going to grab that key. I think I should probably not do this on the screen, so let me drag that out of view and add that key, and then I'll bring it back in. Just give me 1 minute. Let me find it. This one. Okay, great. So I will bring it back into view now. I've added the secret key for the collector, and here we go. Great. So let's see what else we need to do. We want to update the configuration file in the index. So let's do source config index.ts, and we want to enable some config. So one of them is the enable Shardeum indexer. We want to set it to true if it's not, and it is, so we're good. We want to also check that block indexing is enabled, and that is true. Then we want to check if collector socket server is also enabled. So let's do that. It's not enabled, so let's set that to true. So the documentation we're going to publish is going to have all of these instructions. So if anything is looking weird for you, don't worry, it's all going to be documented when we, verify that this is working as we expect. Then the last thing we want to set up here is this Shardeum indexer SQLite part. This is going to be the part of the DB in the service validator. But we haven't set that validator up yet. So let's go ahead and do that. When we do that, then we're going to come and update this variable here, and then we can start the collector service. So next thing, before we start it, let's set up the validator. I'm going to just make a new tab. Something else that I'm thinking of doing, and let me know in the chat if it's going to be helpful, is to have a script that automates all of these things that I'm doing now. Imagine if you could run one script and it will go ahead and set up all of these repositories for you, modify all the configuration files, and just put all the right things in the right place so that you have a full system running locally. I think that will really be helpful for contributors and anyone else who would like to run some of these services themselves. Okay, I'm going to do, what is that? Oh no, I ran. That's Shardeum. Okay. So this, I'm going to set up the service validator now. And let's do npm install. Yeah, this will take a second. And when it's done, all we're going to do is copy the patch to the DB that we're going to create for it, and just update it on the collector, so that the collector knows where to index from. All right, so let me see, what else do we need to set up after this one? Going to look at our diagram. So we have a running network, we have the archiver be part of that network, we have the distributor, we have the collector. So after this, after the service validator, I think we just need to set up the LD-RPC server, and then we're good. All right, let me see how it's doing. Still installing. In that case, I'm just going to do db/. We haven't created this yet. It's going to be in the root part of the service validator. Yeah, so this service validator is actually the Shardeum. Let me show you. So it's really big. That's why the npm installation always takes some time. It's the Shardeum network. This is our main repository. So it's basically going to set up the entire Shardeum server locally for us. And another thing, if you haven't started this repository, please go ahead and start it for us. We would really appreciate you giving us a star here. It's also part of the quest that we're currently doing for the IT entry network. So if you're participating in that and you've already started, that's good. Otherwise, please come on and start for us. Help us get as much publicity as we can on the repository. All right, I think we should be good now. yeah, it's installed. So let's do make directory, let's call it db, and then we just grab this URL, and that's what we need to provide here. Remember, we just made a directory called db, and this is the file that is going to get created in there when we run the service. All right, so the relayer connector is now set up completely, so we can go ahead and start all of those servers. All right, the first one we want to start is the data server, right? And I'm going to grab the command to do that. Great, so we see that the collector data server is now started. So let's start the API server. So all these PM2 commands I'm running are also going to be provided in the docs. So don't let it confuse you if you don't understand any of it yet. The last one I'm going to run is the log server. So let's do that. So now we have the three collector servers running: the API server, the data server, and the log server. And how do we know if this is actually working as we expect? Let's look at the total data endpoint, right? And it's going to be the one we are running locally. So let's check that. Okay, so we see that in port 6001 we have total data endpoint, and we're getting some entries from DB, which is good. Okay, so that's good. Our network is still up, cycle counter 15, that's good. The other thing I want to do is, now that we have the collector running, we can go ahead and start up our service validator, right? Clear this a little bit and open it up so we can modify the config for it. All right, I'm going to look for the config.json file. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is change the external and internal ports. So this is going to be 7001. This one is going to be 11001. And we want to change this to, instead of just localhost, let's do 127.0.0.1 and save that. All right, so this is the public key of the archiver that is running on our local network. That's also the one we provided on the distributor and the collector. This is our IP for the service validator node that is going to join the network, and yeah, everything else looks good. So now that we have that, the last thing I want to do is start the service, start it in service mode. That should be a flag that we have in config, no, not here, I think it's in Shardeum and Shardeum flags. And let me search for it because this file is long. Yes, so this is currently false. You want to set it to true so that the validator starts in service mode, and that's it. All right, so let's go ahead and start the service validator. I'm going to run that here. And now we have the collector servers, we have the distributor and the service validator. So it looks like we're good. The last bit of the puzzle is the LD-RPC server itself. So let me go ahead and actually look at the services we have running. PM2 lists, no, we have everything. Yeah, we're going to kick off a new tab. Clone the RPC server. We cd into it and the npm install. So let's open that up. And the first thing we want to do is check if collector sourcing is enabled. Let's open this, make it a bit wider. We're going to look at the source. Is there a config.ts file? Yes. So we want to check if the value for the collector sourcing enabled is true. So it's not, so we need to update that to true. Then we are going to check validator sourcing as well. It's false, so we set that to true. Then the validator URL, remember we updated the internal port to 7001. This is correct, that's correct. Let's check if WebSocket is enabled. It's true, yeah, it is enabled. Okay, so I think that's all we have to do for the RPC server. And let's start it. Let's do npm run compile. And then so here, depending on what you're working on, you can start 2 or 1 RPC servers. I want to start RPC servers. I want to start 1 pm2js. So it's going to so it's going to start that RPC service for us. Let's do pm2 list. See everything that we've started so far. And now you can see that we have our collector servers up, we have our distributor, we have our RPC server, and we have our service validator. Great. How do we check that we've set these things up correctly? Let me try to, I'm going to grab Postman. Just give me 1 second to find that. So I want to make a request to the RPC service and see if we get a response. So this is Postman. This is how I like to kind of like interact with APIs, and just gives it a very nice visual appeal for the request you're making and the responses you're getting. So I want to make this request to the RPC server that is running on port 8080 and see if I get a response back. So I do get a response which shows that our RPC service is running. We can also confirm that from, let's look at pm2 logs and look at the RPC 8080 log. And we can see that it's connected to our local archiver on this URL, and we have it on cycle number 22. Perfect. Is there anything else that I want to, let me try to see if I can try to see if I don't know if this is going to work yet. I don't expect it to, but I'm going to try to see if I can make I can execute transactions on the local running RPC. I don't know. Let's try it and see what happens. So it's pending. I'll come back and take a look at it again, see if it works. So I can see in the UI that the transaction got to the validators. So I'm guessing it's currently being processed. And this is our service validator. If you look at the ports, you see that it's 7001, the one that we've set up locally. So I'll give it some time and then I'll come back. While that is going on, let me conclude by showing you some of the issues that we've logged that you can start hacking on today if you want to contribute to Shardeum, which I hope that you do. We have the validator CLI or the validator and the validator GUI. Let me see if there's any issues. So we have this issue that we've logged. It's a very good first issue. It counts to your Hacktober first contribution if you take it up. It's basically just going to ask you to implement unit tests for the validator CLI commands that we have. It should be pretty easy for anyone to get started with, and if you need any help while that's going on, you can always ping us and we'll continue to help you to get it done. I see that there are also conversations going on at the moment in the issue, so if it hasn't been assigned at the time you look at it, please feel free to take it up. I think there's a couple of other ones. I shared some of those issues in the open source channel. I'm going to log another issue today, maybe 2 more, so that if you're looking for something to start contributing to Shardeum, that would be a good place to get started. It's not complex, it's pretty straightforward, and you should be able to do it without any problems. And we will still be available to help you if you run into any issues. All right, I see that it looks like our local transaction got processed successfully. I see total processed is 1 and the maximum TPS is 1. So it means our transaction went through, I think. It's still showing us pending, but it did go through because I'm seeing it get reported in the monitor server. So we are up on time, 10 minutes over time now. Thank you for sticking through it. What I'm going to do is keep to my promise and share a link where you can connect your wallets for us to give you the POAP. And next, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can find you that POAP link. Okay, so the link is in the chat. I think all you have to do is to click on the link, connect your wallet, put in your email address, and that's it. When we go to mainnet, you get all of your POAPs for your attendance. So thank you everyone for joining today. Can you try to claim the POAP, see if it works? If it does work, then I'm going to end the stream. Otherwise, I will. It's not accepting. Oh, hang on. Hang on, I hear you. Let me check if I can open it up. All right, can you try it again? See if it's accepting responses now. I've opened it up. Okay, are we good? Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, thank you all very much for joining us today. We are going to be closing that POAP form in 10 minutes. So please, if you want to get that POAP, go ahead and connect your wallet now and submit the form, and we will take notice of it. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you back again in 2 weeks. Bye everyone.